Hey, thanks for tuning in this week. I have a very great guest for you here today. He is a good professional friend. We finally got to meet in person recently in New Orleans. Jeff is based all the way out in Hawaii. I'm talking today to Jeffrey Owens, and we are for sure going to talk about some interesting stuff because Jeff is a former police officer and negotiator for the police in Hawaii. He also was a business executive running a big security company, and he is a human interaction expert. He talks about that and is a great speaker to listen to, and also provides excellent advice to executives and companies all over the world. Leadership today isn't just about scaling. It's about navigating constant uncertainty, market disruptions, and high-pressure decisions. If you're dealing with chaos, bottlenecks, and relentless pressure, welcome to the Business Emergency Room. So I'm excited you're here, Jeff, because in the context of business emergencies and high-stakes decision-making and situational awareness, I know we can all learn from you for days. So welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great. I'm excited to spend time with you. I really am looking forward to our conversation here.
Good. Well, good smile. It's always nice to hang out with you. You're just such a positive and intriguing and fun person to be around. So maybe we can start off with some good stories. You're a speaker after all, and I know you have stories. So, Jeff, do you have a business emergency story or a story around business emergencies that might be of interest to our listener?
We were coming online, and I was like, okay, I probably fill up the whole time with a whole bunch of different stories that could be. But, I got to thinking, I'm going to share a story with you that is going to sound at first that it's not a business story. But from this experience, it helped me to develop a lot of my business skills and my leadership skills as a result of that. So it could be a very long story, but I'll try to make it short. So, as you mentioned, I was a hostage negotiator with the Honolulu Police Department. Now, in the early days, we didn't have any formal training. Later on, I became an FBI-trained hostage negotiator. But in the early days, it was really just kind of figuring it out on my own. So most of the calls that we got would come in were actually not that big of a deal. It was usually something like, maybe somebody got too drunk or too emotional and did really stupid things, like, not letting their girlfriend or somebody out of the apartment or things of that nature. And normally I had developed a little bit of a spiel. I'd show up on scene and I'd just introduce myself. My name's Jeff. I'm with the Honolulu Police Department. I'm here to work with you on this situation. And then I'd listen to their issues. There's a learning point right there that we'll talk about. And I would listen to their issues. After a little while, we'd talk a little bit about it. And I'd say something like, you know what? Why don't you just go ahead and let that other person out? And they would. And I'm like, oh, this is really awesome. I'm pretty good at this stuff. And we'd talk a little bit more, maybe let them vent a little bit more. Another learning point here. And then, it's not that big of a deal. Come on, of course there's going to be consequences, but it's not that big a deal. Why don't you just come on out? And they would. So I started to think I was really, really good at this. But then one day we got a call, and this was a little bit different. You see, most of these calls that I got came at like 0:30 in the morning, and this one came at 10:07 in the morning. And it was from the SWAT team, which had never called me out before. And so the lieutenant calls me up. He says, "Hey, Detective Owens, we got this person down at the harbor. He shot at some people in the harbor area. He didn't hit anybody, but we got him isolated. The SWAT team's in place, the snipers in place. But the commander says I'm supposed to call you. That you're going to talk to him or something. I'm sure that's not what you're going to do. Oh, yes, I am. I'm good at this. I'm going to come there. I'm going to talk to him. He'll give up, and I'll be the hero. This is going to be awesome." So I jump in my car, I blaze down there, hit the brakes movie style, come to a screeching halt, jump out of my car, Look for the first officer. Hey, where is this guy? Oh, Detective Owens, he's around over there. Hey, where is this guy? He's around there. Okay, great. I'm going to go talk to him. Detective Owens. Yeah, no worry. I'm going to go talk to him. This is what I do. Hey, I'm the negotiator. Let me do what I do. Another learning point in the middle of all this, it is very often a good idea to gather as much information as you can before you make decisions about what you're going to do. So I walk around to this person and I walk right up to him and I'm like, hey, my name is Jeff Owens. I'm with the Honolulu Police Department. I'm here to work with you on this situation. Now, at this point, he's supposed to be getting ready to give up, but nobody told him. Instead, he reaches behind him, he pulls out the gun, and he puts it right in my face. And he starts to yell and scream and call me every name in the book, insulting everything about me. What did I want to do? The exact same thing that you and everybody else would like to do when somebody gets in your face, when they are rude and disrespectful and confrontational. I wanted to tell him off. I wanted to put him in his place. You can't talk to me like that. Who do you think you are? I'm the cop. You're the crook. I'm the good guy. You're the bad guy. You've got the gun and I don't. So I knew I couldn't do that because I looked this man in the eyes and I knew that he would pull that trigger if I gave him a reason. So I did the only thing I could do. I just started talking to him. And I started asking questions. What's going on? How did we get into this situation? What caused you to get here? What's going on? I want to understand why you are here and what is going on. Talk to me. Let me listen to you. And he did. And he started to tell me all his grievances and all his gripes, and most of them made no sense whatsoever, but they were real to him.
Yeah.
And after a while, I just started asking more questions, listening to him, and as a result of doing that, showing him a certain level of respect. And after a while, I was like, you know what? Why don't you just put the gun down? Let's wrap this thing up. And he did. And they took him away. We got him arrested. We got him in handcuffs. They took him away. And everybody left. Jeff, you're fantastic. You're great. And after everybody's gone, I literally collapsed. Sitting on the ground, cold sweat, in shock, because I realized I had almost died. And I thought to myself, you better figure it out what it is that you did to get yourself out of that. And I thought about it for a very long time. And after a while, I realized it's not what I had done that got me out of that situation. It's what I didn't do. I didn't return the disrespect, the hurt, the anger, the frustration that he was giving to me. I did not have all of the facts. Clarity is more important than having all of the facts in line. But I understood that he was a person in fear, that was hurt, that was angry. And I respected that in him. As a result, he gave me some respect in return. And I realized that was the magic. That is what it was about. And from that experience, it actually helped me in my professional career in the police department by learning to listen to others, by learning to evaluate the facts from their position. It doesn't have to be real to me. I don't have to agree with it. I don't have to like somebody in my business environment. And as a leader, I don't have to like or agree with anybody. But I can never disrespect anyone. And that was a key business lesson for me, to understand the power of respect. And also, from that, I came up with what I call my Trinity concept. And the Trinity concept has helped me work through many crisis situations. Because a lot of times these things are moving very quickly, and you have to kind of figure out what's going to happen really quickly. Yeah. But with that, I think it was Wyatt Earp who said, you have to go fast slowly. So the why, what, how is a concept that I developed to try to gather the necessary information to react at the moment so I can then figure out long-term strategic processes to deal with whatever the situation. So the way it works is that why informs what empowers how acts on why. If I can understand why this situation exists, why this person is doing what they're doing, why I'm responding the way I am, why are we in this situation? What are the contributing elements? What are the motivators and inhibitors? What are the factors that are coming together in this environment? Because once I have that, I can figure out what will I do to address them. Once I know what I can do to address them, then I can shift into implementation of how do we enact our plan of action to address the immediate crisis situation, which is the tactical, so that we can then lay out the strategic long-term solutions. So that's kind of a story.
Great story. I hear also some other, definitely the listening in those situations, right? That creates calm, people doing stupid things when emotions are running high. In the business context, I wouldn't necessarily call them stupid. If you put people under enough pressure, they're going to revert to what they know how to do, or they're going to express their frustration with a situation that's been building for months. And so, you're going to get called out on all these things that you haven't addressed in your business, or that maybe are also not your fault as a leader, but that have grown in the business environment or whatever, right? And it needs to come out. And sometimes people cannot actually have any other conversations until that's somewhere parked or at least vented, which is healthy, I think, in most cases, but it doesn't feel healthy and it feels disrespectful and hurtful and angry. But it's like the kettle, right? The steam needs to come off before you want to open it a little bit further, because otherwise you're going to get burned. And if you're the one who can absorb it, which brings me to the other observation or what I heard in your story. I talk often about in the land of the blind, sometimes one eye feels like the king, right? And in that situation, but that's a muscle you can train because it doesn't feel natural. Sometimes when you look around, or you, in your case, you didn't really have time to look around and say, oh, now this guy put a gun in my face, I'm going to walk away and let somebody else resolve it. There wouldn't have been a chance for anybody else to insert themselves there. So it had to be you. In slightly less extreme cases, it maybe doesn't have to be you. But in the interest of time, it maybe does, right? And I think you having done this situation not quite so dangerously, but meant that you were able to stay in the moment, right? So that muscle somewhere was trained enough that even in that moment, you were like, okay, I'm now the one who's here and who's going to do it with this guy. Nobody else is going to do this.
Yeah, and you're right. And the one of the most powerful elements for influencing other people in leadership is really about influencing others to do what you want them to do. In its simplest context, right? I mean, there can be much more eloquent explanations, but in the simplest concept is influencing others to do what you want them to do. And one of the most powerful tools to gain influence is to listen. You see, especially people who tend to rise up into the leadership positions, we generally tend to feel quite confident and very perhaps competent at what we do, and very real. Yes, people are confident and competent. That's why they are in that position. But then we start to tell rather than listen. You learn nothing when you're talking. You learn when you're listening. And then you learn the whys and the whats so you can develop the how. Let me shift it exactly what you were just talking about from that story and how it worked in a business situation. So when I was in the department, was a division commander eventually, and I was put in charge of a division that for 10 years had never been at or under the overtime budget. It had been gradually increasing over time to the point that it was annually 110% over budget. Right? So this is pretty good. Sometimes crises creep up on you.
Yeah, it's an interesting creep, right? How does things creep to 110%? And yet they do all
They do.
the time.
Absolutely. And because nobody could. So what I did, I applied what I'd learned off of the docs talking to a man with a gun in my face to use the why, what, how. Why are we over budget? What is the contributing factors? How can I address that? So what I did is I had our timekeeper, figure out how much of this overtime was non-discretionary. In other words, the officers are being subpoenaed to court or other demands that there's just no choice. They are going to be working overtime. And then what I did is I took the balance, which was much, much larger. It turns out the non-discretionary wasn't that large. And I took the balance of the overtime budget that we had, and I went to each of my shift commanders. We call them watch commanders. And I went to each of my shift commanders. And I divided it up and I said, this is your budget. You make the decisions about who gets overtime and who does not among your watch. Within the first month, we came in under budget. And the secret was that I had shifted responsibility to the lowest competent level of people that wanted to be in leadership positions. And I said, here is your budget. You control this budget because you're closest to where the overtime is used, and you make the decisions. And here's the deal. I'm giving you full responsibility and full authority, because you can never give responsibility without authority.
No.
And you make the decisions. And if you come in under budget, great. If you come over budget, I'll accept my responsibility that I had given that to you. Amazingly, people will rise up to the challenge.
Yeah, the empowerment, right, from that alone.
Right. So I figured out why. The reason why wasn't really the need for it. The reason why is that no one felt that they were
to stop
vested.
it.
Yeah, they had no ownership. They had no vesting on the decisions that were made. Right. So that was the why. What was the solution? Give ownership.
Yeah.
And how was that done? Yeah. By allowing them to have that control. And we brought in the budget, the overtime budget, under budget, 10% under for the duration that I was there.
Yeah. I recently did an episode also about delegation, right? Because we don't use it enough as a tool, and we often take decisions not down to the right level where they should be made, because we think everything is important, so everything needs to be made up there. Whilst we actually don't have the best day-to-day and actual insight to make that decision. And it should be moved down in the organization. So I love that example. Speaking about decision-making, because that's definitely a question I wanted to ask you. High stakes decision making is definitely something that fits in your in your career and your life, but also you come out of a background where hierarchy and decision making structures and authority is also quite well defined and strictly organized, and actually better than in many corporate organizations, right? What do you think are some of the biggest things that make people successful in actually making decisions when the stakes are high, and or making better decisions when the stakes are high?
I think there's a couple of things here. One is, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, clarity is more important than certainty in the moment. The other thing has to do with how do you show up in the crisis situation. You as the leader, when the crisis situation, whether it's a economic situation, a marketing situation, a sales situation, a organizational structure situation, whatever that crisis might be of the moment, how you show up as a leader is going to inspire confidence in others. And if you show up as a confident leader, it's a funny thing. that it actually helps us individually to make better decisions. There's this sense that I am going to listen to those around me. I'm going to gather the information that I can. So this kind of goes to that gathering the information, right? The whys. We work in an organization where there's many different skill sets, many different levels of knowledge, many different competencies that are there. If I show up as a confident leader, people are more likely to be willing to share their information with me. If I show up with and I'm uncertain, then they're not sure it's safe to share information with me. But if I show up as a confident leader and say, listen, I want your opinion. I want your input. I want to hear your level of expertise to contribute. I may or may not use it, but I want to hear it, right? And that's the message that you're giving. Now this gives those people the confidence to share the information with you. And of course, now that you have more information, you're going to be able to formulate better decisions in the matter. And this can be happening whether it is a gradual thing or whether it's in the moment right now. Okay, where are we at? What is that? I need clarity. And once I have that clarity, then I can start to formulate decisions.
The clarity can also be, I also don't know exactly where we're going, but I want us to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
And confidently saying, well, this is a surprise and unexpected, and this was not on anyone's radar. So now we're going to have a bit of shift of gears, and we're going to try and put a plan together. This is still the long-term goal as far as I see. And so we're going to need to figure out how to navigate around this, because you're inviting people in, right?
Absolutely.
And it also links back to your earlier example of when you delegated that authority around the budget, but you delegated and gave them the authority to do it. That came with the trust in okay, you're going to do it your way, and whatever your way is going to be fine because I gave this to you and I'm well aware of that. And then you get the best out of people, huh?
Yeah, trust them. Yeah, give people trust. Yeah. It's amazing they will leave. Most people will live up to the trust that you give them. But it's something else that, again, comes from that experience of on the docks, right? Okay. And I use this one that from that experience, I learned the power of respect. And you and I talked about this in New Orleans a little bit, about the power of respect. Now, respect isn't weakness at all. Respect is influence at its strongest. But the issue is this: respect yourself, respect the other, respect the situation. So as you say, something happens. It just blindsides us. This was not on the radar. We did not see this coming. New competition entered the field, or a financial thing happened, or whatever it might be, right? Okay, number one, respect the situation. You see, it's a cycle. It doesn't have to be entered at any point. Respect the situation. It is what it is. And so we need to be honest with ourselves and recognize this is the situation. We didn't want it to be. I don't like it. I'd like to pretend it's not there, but I need to respect the situation. Now I need to respect myself. Yep. What is my role? What is my obligation? What is my responsibility? And then whoever or whatever might be involved, respect that and how that contributes to either the existence of the problem or to find the solution to the problem. So the power of respect for self, the other, and the situation can help us get through those unseen crises that suddenly come up on us. Somebody once said, wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others.
Yes. Yeah, it would be good if you can do the learning without the scars, right? For sure. Yeah. Yeah. So I know I could talk to you for another 700 hours, but not today on this episode. I do think for sure there's going to be listeners who are like, oh, I want to know more about Jeffrey Owens. So where do they go? Where do they find you? How do they get them to speak for you to speak on their stages? What do they do?
The easiest way to find me is my email, which is my name, Jeff, Jeff, jeffreyowens.com, JEFFREYOWENS.com. I do have a website, which is jeffreyowens.com. And my office number is 808-367-3210. And I also have my surgically implanted mobile phone, which is 808-722-5311.
Well, you're very generous making yourself available like that. I love that you came today, Jeff. I'll remember the why, what, and how for sure. And I will remember to use the word respect instead of all the other terms I use, because I do think that's the appropriate way to go. So thank you. I listened, so I learned some, and I hope all of you tuning in today learned even more from this episode. I loved having you here, and I hope to have you back here next week. And Jeff, I hope to have you back sometime in future, and see you soon again. Thank you for joining us.
I would love it. Thank you.
That's it for this episode of the Business Emergency Room. If you are currently dealing with chaos or disruption in your business, please reach out. You can email, text, or call, and I will find a way to connect with you within 24 hours. I've helped others steer out of the storm, and I know I can help you too. Talk soon. Please like, subscribe, and share.